Tonight, fire crews on high alert as hot and dry conditions risk more bushfire outbreaks. The UN Security Council adopts a resolution calling for large-scale delivery of aid to Gaza. And Eagles forward opens up on his struggle with a major health issue. And Australia's batters fight to save the women's one-off test against India. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Briana Shepherd. Hot and dry conditions have again kept Western Australian fire crews on high alert as they deal with several bushfires across the state. A number of properties were lost or badly damaged in two fires, which threatened lives and homes on the outskirts of Perth.
From a backyard to charred bushland, the fire came within metres of Ben van Viersen's property in North Dandalup, south of Perth.
That had it taken. Could have lost the tank.
He wasn't there, but his home was saved after a tradie turned on the sprinklers.
Scared and relieved at the same time because I got away with it, and hopefully it's 3 or 4 years before it can ever happen again. And I won't let it happen again because I'm going to put a big break around the house.
The bushfire tore through the countryside at more than 2 kilometres an hour at its peak on Friday. 2 unoccupied properties on a mine site were destroyed and many other homes were threatened.
Only a couple of metres away from those properties, and again it's the great work of the crews and perhaps a little bit of preparedness from those homeowners, as well as a little bit of luck that's probably saved the day. Shane Rowley's family rushed in to save horses on nearby farms.
You do what you have to do. It's as simple as that. They're no heroes. They're just doing what everyone else was doing.
A separate fire in Parkerville destroyed 3 homes on Thursday. The threat is far from over, with hot conditions forecast over the next 2 days, and fire authorities again urging residents to make sure they have a bushfire plan in place. Keysbrook resident Sue Mead knew exactly what to do.
This is the set of sprinklers that I had on yesterday in case the fire changed. Come on, girls. Come on, darlings.
The former volunteer firefighter, who has lived in the area all her life, also has a firefighting unit with a tank and pump ready to go.
I would stay and defend because I've got 4 pet sheep that are my life. If it's ridiculous to stay, I'll go, but I'll try and take my pet sheep with me.
Not everyone is as prepared as Sue Mead, but authorities say taking a few minutes to review or create a plan could save lives in what is predicted to be a dangerous bushfire season. Nick Perpich, ABC News.
It took a week, but finally the United Nations Security Council has agreed on a resolution on Gaza. The text was reworked, then watered down in intense negotiations aimed at winning support from the United States.
De resolución que figura en el documento.
13 votes in favour.
Abstenciones.
2 abstentions, but no vetoes. In the Security Council, that counts as a victory.
2 abstenciones.
After 5 days of bitter wrangling.
It took many days and many long nights of negotiating to get this right. But today, this council provided a glimmer of hope amongst a sea of unimaginable suffering.
The resolution demands aid be delivered at scale directly to the Palestinian people in Gaza, with the help of a UN-appointed coordinator. What it doesn't do is demand an immediate stop to the fighting, instead calling for the creation of conditions for a sustainable ceasefire, a compromise made to avoid a US veto, which the resolution sponsor eventually accepted.
Often, in diplomacy, the challenge is meeting the moment in the world we live in, not in the world that we want. And we will never tire in pushing for a full humanitarian ceasefire.
A humanitarian ceasefire is the only way to begin to meet the desperate needs of people in Gaza and end their ongoing nightmare.
UN Security Council resolutions are technically legally binding, but in practice difficult to enforce. Israel has already described the UN move as disconnected from reality. Hamas says it's insufficient.
On the ground, the offensive is intensifying.
Israeli forces continue the ground operation in Khan Yunis and at the same time preparing for the widening of the operation to additional areas in the Gaza Strip.
It's hard to see how, under those conditions, more aid will make it into Gaza, even if the one thing the world can agree on is how desperately it's needed. Barbara Miller, ABC News.
Police have released dramatic footage of them storming the university in Prague, where a student killed 14 people before he killed himself when officers surrounded him. It's the country's worst mass shooting and the motive remains unknown.
From the fourth-floor balcony of Charles University, the 24-year-old gunman takes aim and fires. This Czech journalist witnessed the attack and attempted to distract the shooter mid-assault.
He was shooting towards the people, and that was the thing. I yelled at him to shoot in my direction so that the people could run somewhere safe.
Police arrived 4 minutes after the massacre began. Body camera footage shows special forces charging down hallways and searching classrooms that staff and students had barricaded themselves inside.
Put us on the floor, they searched everyone, and then with our hands up, we were just taken outside the building. As I was going down the stairs, I saw lots of blood on the stairs.
The lone shooter was surrounded by police 20 minutes after the first shot was fired.
Police were waiting for the moment when he became more or less encircled because he was using the balcony to hide from us. He got cornered and was only left with one weapon.
Police say the gunman killed his father before telling a friend he planned to kill himself. Authorities also linked him to the murders of a man and his 2-month-old daughter last week.
I don't want to speak about the number of weapons, but he had more than one, and he was really ready to kill much more people.
The Czech president and prime minister were among hundreds paying tribute to those killed. A national day of mourning has been declared and security increased at schools and public buildings until at least the new year. Michelle Rimmer, ABC News.
Residents of flood-ravaged far north Queensland may have little to give this festive season, but their Christmas spirit is far from dampened. Victims are rallying together, preparing meals and wrapping presents for those in need. But some communities in the region remain isolated, with roads still cut.
Christmas cheer in the face of adversity. Flood-affected residents rallying together, lifting the spirits of those who've lost everything.
It's overwhelming. Helping people and being able to help back, receive help back is so good.
Just thought it would be maybe 50 or 100 gifts. It's something like 400. It's incredible.
I'm grateful that we could do this today.
A flood victim herself, Ria Holland, has organised hundreds of meals for others impacted in Cairns.
Such a great experience to be able to hand in hot meals to people, and as soon as they feel the warmth of the food, they start, crying, giving me a hug.
Some are still isolated, unable to leave their communities, with the Captain Cook Highway cut between Palm Cove and Port Douglas. The ABC spoke to Dave Donnelly, who's been trapped at Ellis Beach for 6 days.
We're feeling tired. I don't feel like it's Christmas, I can tell you that.
In Port Douglas, bottled water a welcome sight after pipes were damaged by flooding on Tuesday. The taps are expected to be turned on again tonight.
And we've had teams from all over the state here working with our crews as well to ensure that this is being fixed as quickly as possible. And I can guarantee you they've probably done about 3 weeks' worth of work in a couple of days to get this done.
On the western side of the Cape, floodwaters are peaking in Cowan-Yama. The state government has pledged an additional $100,000 in immediate financial assistance for North Queenslanders. It's welcome news ahead of Christmas, but the fallout from this disaster will be felt long into the new year. Toby Loftus, ABC News, Cairns.
When Jake Waterman was diagnosed with a debilitating autoimmune disease, he didn't know if he would ever play AFL again. But after a difficult few months, he's training the house down, aiming for a big 2024 with the West Coast Eagles.
Looking at Jake Waterman in full flight, it's hard to imagine him 6 months ago lying in a hospital bed, unsure what his future held. The 25-year-old was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis and inflammatory bowel disease after pulling out of a game against Adelaide in the middle of the 2023 season.
When I started panicking was when I was getting real nauseous and started vomiting and whatnot, but I had these lingering symptoms that were just sort of just pecking away at me and progressively getting worse to the point where, you know, before a game I was like, I just don't think I can play.
He flew home and was in hospital 36 hours later, eventually dropping 12 kilograms and spending 10 days in care.
I think in my first 3 or 4 days, I can't even remember because I was just so out of it. I was nowhere. I was probably spent most of it sleeping in tremendous amounts of pain.
The diagnosis came out of nowhere and was a shock for him and his family. Initially, returning to the footy field was the least of his concerns, but as he recovered, he kept one eye on the back end of the waffle season.
Had one decent week where I got some loading, did a bit of running and felt good, and then the next week I just, couldn't train. The sensitivity in my stomach bouncing up and down was too much to bear, and pretty much called it that day and just said, nah, I'm not going to run I think I didn't run for 4 weeks.
After giving himself time to recover and regain his lost weight, Waterman returned to full training and he impressed everyone, winning the club's time trial.
Who stood out this week? Put your hand up for Jakey. Buddy. Jakey went from there.
The experience has given the forward a new perspective on life.
You know, at times I didn't think I was going to get back here, so just enjoy every moment you can.
He's doing just that as he lays the foundation for a big 2024. Tom Wildie, ABC News.
A simple finger prick could revolutionise global screening of type 1 diabetes. Scientists at the Royal Melbourne Hospital say they are the first to successfully trial the at-home test and say it holds the promise of a cheap and reliable way to test children for the chronic disease.
A quick prick and a few drops of blood is changing the world of diabetes.
The biggest problem with preventing type 1 diabetes is identifying the kids who are at risk.
100 Victorian children and young adults already tested for diabetes took part in a study using the finger prick test at home and sending it back to the hospital to test for type 1 diabetes antibodies. Victoria Pitt has had the disease for 18 years and her daughters took part in the study.
Autoimmune conditions are so hard to detect, especially early on. They don't usually show up until you're full-blown symptoms.
While antibodies for type 1 diabetes can appear in children as young as 1, symptoms of the disease usually appear in adolescence.
The earlier you diagnose type 1 diabetes, the more pancreas function you have. If you wait, the immune system destroys the pancreas and it does not recover.
It's hoped early diagnosis using the test, coupled with immunotherapy, may save people from a lifetime of injecting insulin.
It's the last thing I want my kids to have.
A formal clinical trial will start in January and run for 2 years, with the expectation the FDA will approve it so that it can roll out as a national screening test for children. Rachel Clayton, ABC News, Melbourne.
As families reunite for Christmas, most Australians are preparing to once again enjoy the day free of COVID-19 restrictions. But with the virus still circulating, for some, Christmas means taking extra precautions to stay safe from the disease. And though the latest wave of infections continues to ease across the country, authorities are concerned about the number of current outbreaks in aged care facilities.
At Adelaide's Central Market, the prawns are being picked, the cherries plucked and puddings packed in preparation for Christmas. And for many, COVID isn't on the list of things to worry about for the big day.
It is in the rear-view mirror.
I know it's going around again though, there's lots of kids and things having it, but we're not really thinking about it.
Epidemiologist Professor Adrian Esterman says, for most people, not caring too much about COVID isn't a bad way to go.
About themselves, fair enough. I mean, if you're over COVID, and most of us are, even me, I'm over COVID, that's absolutely fair. But think of the people you'll be meeting. Have you got elderly relatives? Have you got relatives or family who have got an underlying health condition that puts them at risk?
Marnie Hamilton is in that category. She's severely immunocompromised, so Christmas still means plenty of precautions, including rapid COVID tests for her visiting family.
I socially distance. I give them brief hugs. And
and then it's all just hand washing and just being sensible.
While the government's emergency response to the pandemic is over and social restrictions long gone, the virus is still around. After a small wave, which peaked in late November, reported cases are continuing to fall across the country in the lead up to Christmas. But infections and outbreaks aren't coming down in aged care homes, a trend concerning health authorities.
It's as if we have any symptoms whatsoever, it is not the time to go into an aged care facility, even though we'd like to visit a loved one.
For those wanting to stay COVID safe, consider Christmas lunch outside, or if you're inside, open the doors and windows. And of course, one of the best ways to protect yourself and others is to keep up to date with your booster vaccines, something very few Australians are still doing, even among those considered most at risk.
Only 25% or less of people aged over 75 are up to date with their booster shot. And it's 15% of those aged 65 to 74.
Back at the market, that's a message still managing to get through to most.
I'm certainly going to be getting my booster for the new strain and encouraging other people to do it.
It's better than being dead.
For some, a clean bill of health is the best Christmas present this year. Harvey Biggs, ABC News.
It's that time of the year when Year 12 students find out their final grades and start planning their futures outside of school. But while those with top marks are celebrated, experts stress a person's ATAR isn't necessarily a measure of future success. Leah McLennan reports.
The results of years of hard work culminating in one final score.
Okay guys, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to open my 2023 ATAR.
On videos flooding social media, some graduates are celebrating their ATAR result. Others aren't as jubilant.
One of my friends got 96.05 and then the other friend got 99.15. I really am the dud of my friends.
Joining them on social media is Professor Braden Hill, a Deputy Vice-Chancellor at Edith Cowan University, who wants to let them know a bad ATAR isn't the end of the world.
But as someone who's been a teacher, academic, has multiple degrees, I got an ATAR of 55. But regardless of the ATAR that you get, there are multiple pathways to university, and there's not just one way.
But it's not all about getting into university.
And really underneath the floor of the car is all the batteries.
There are many industries that want students to know they're looking for people, and they don't need a degree.
You can pretty much start your job tomorrow, and also you won't have that tens of thousands of dollars of potential debt that you may have if you do some other study.
Experts say there is still a bias towards university when it comes to career counselling in schools, with graduating students urged to keep in mind other options like a traineeship or apprenticeship.
People have incredibly successful careers coming through apprenticeships or traineeships, and in fact generally have a better head start in life, get to financial independence a lot quicker.
A message to keep in mind as graduates weigh up life outside the schoolyard. Leah McLennan, ABC News.
There has been an uprising in Taiwan this year, with allegations of sexual misconduct reaching into nearly every part of society. As the Me Too wave swept the island, some of those allegations have resulted in real action, with apologies made at the highest levels of Taiwanese politics. But one of the most prominent people to come forward has been met with a defamation suit, and some are concerned this will limit the movement going forward. East Asia correspondent Kathleen Calderwood filed this report.
Tina Zhou shot to fame as part of Taiwanese pop band Hey Girl. Key to her success was this man, Chan Chien-zhou.
This issue has been on my mind for many years.
Spurred on by Taiwan's Me Too movement, Ms Zhou went public with allegations of sexual misconduct, saying Mr Chan took advantage of his position and sexually harassed her on a business trip to Hong Kong in 2012.
Many people are afraid to speak up, and I thought that maybe my experience could inspire those who lack the courage to speak up for themselves.
Mr Chan denies the allegations and sued Ms Zhou for defamation. Taiwan's Me Too movement began thanks to a hit political drama called Wave Makers. It inspired one woman to speak out about her experience of alleged sexual harassment while working for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party. The president issued an apology on behalf of the party and several senior staffers resigned. Taipei councillor Hong Wan-jin, also a member of the DPP, supported several women from the city's parks office who'd been sexually harassed by a security guard over several years.
They cried because they had sought help for months from various places, but nobody could properly assist them.
The security guard was later dismissed after an investigation by the council.
After a months-long process, this week the Taipei Prosecutor's Office decided not to pursue criminal defamation charges against Tina Zhou. But the legal process takes a toll, and some fear that even the threat of such action could have a chilling effect on those considering if they should come forward.
If Taiwan's Me Too movement stops at my case, then all the brave individuals, whether male or female, who came forward courageously before me, everyone will have lost.
But activists remain hopeful.
I think the Me Too movement lets each of these stories be seen, and it has a positive impact on Taiwan society as a whole, like a force moving forward.
A call for more people to find their voice. Kathleen Calderwood, ABC News, Taipei.
Time for sport with Tom Wildie, and Australia fighting back in Mumbai, Tom.
They've dug deep to eliminate India's first innings lead, Brie, and are now building a total for them to chase in the one-off test. Talia McGrath led the way with a brilliant 73, her second half century of the match, as Australia ensured the contest would go to a fourth and final day.
After taking 3 quick wickets midway through day 2, Australia had hoped to rip through India and bat for a second time. But a 100-run 8th wicket partnership catapulted the home side into a dominant first innings position.
We toiled really hard, and I guess going into today we just need to be really consistent and I guess really boring with the lines and lengths that we're bowling. I think we were probably too wide or too full yesterday.
But after leaking early runs,
very well played,
the Aussies finally got a breakthrough.
Wicket finally for Annabel Sutherland.
Australia claiming the last 3 wickets inside an hour, but not before India passed 400 with a 187-run lead.
It's the short balls that have done the trick this morning.
After a disastrous start to the first innings, Beth Mooney and Phoebe Litchfield looked far more settled at the crease.
Oh, that's beautiful.
But the pitch started to play up and the wickets started to fall. A momentary lapse in concentration costing Mooney, while Litchfield was undone by a poor shot choice. Elise Perry and Talia McGrath picked up the baton after lunch.
That's punched power in that stroke.
Their partnership of 84 went a long way to erasing India's advantage until Perry fell chasing one down the leg side.
Against the run of play.
But Australia continued to fight, eventually eliminating the deficit and starting to build a total for India to chase.
Pakistan's bowling stocks have been dealt another blow, with spinner Noman Ali ruled out of the remainder of the series against Australia. Ali complained of sudden abdominal pain yesterday and underwent surgery for appendicitis. It comes after fast bowler Karam Shahzad also withdrew from the series after suffering a stress fracture in his rib. Meanwhile, the Australian side spent the day enjoying the sunshine at the MCG while it lasts. Rain is expected for the second test, with the heaviest falls predicted before the match on Christmas Day. Wicketkeeper Alex Carey says the team's preparation for the Boxing Day test will remain the same, regardless of Melbourne's weather forecast.
When Paddy wins or the toss or loses it, we'll go out to work and try to win that first hour of play. I think that's all we can do is focus really closely on our preparation, make sure the kids around the group's got all their Christmas presents and the parents are happy and gets enough sleep, and we'll be right.
The Sydney Thunder have picked up their first victory of the Big Bash season, defeating the Melbourne Stars by 5 wickets in Albury. Both sides had been winless so far in their campaigns, as the Stars posted a total of 172 after a half-century to Beau Webster. The all-rounder took 4 crucial wickets in response, but it wasn't enough as the Thunder prevailed with 10 balls to spare. Last night, the Sydney Sixers maintained their winning start to the season, defeating the Adelaide Strikers by 1 run at the SCG. A half-century from Jordan Silk propelled the hosts to 7 for 155 before the Strikers pushed the match to the final ball. The Perth Lynx have won a third straight WNBL game and moved clear into second on the ladder, beating the Southside Flyers 95-85. After a tight first half, the Lynx edged away to lead by 8 points at the final change. Perth kept the Flyers at arm's length in the final term to win and move ahead of their opponents on the ladder. The Lynx host the UC Capitals on Wednesday. The Sydney Flames have overcome the Bendigo Spirit 79-67 in their WNBL Round 8 clash. Bendigo started strong, winning the first 2 quarters in Sydney to take an 8-point lead at half-time. The Flames took control after the break. Lauren Nicholson top scoring with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists and 2 steals. The Flames are now 5th on the ladder, 1 place ahead of the Spirit. Melbourne City have jumped ahead of the Perth Glory into top spot on the A-League women's ladder after defeating crosstown rivals Melbourne Victory 1-0. Emma Ekic scored City's goal after a brilliant individual effort, guiding the ball past the keeper. Meanwhile, the Central Coast Mariners put 3 goals past Canberra United to earn a crucial 3 points in the race for the finals. Earlier, third-placed Phoenix defeated the Newcastle Jets 2-0 in Wellington, securing their 5th win of the season.
I think we all expected to be able to do this well. We have a really talented squad and we've shown that, I think.
Australia's freestyle skiing trailblazer Jakara Anthony is continuing to dominate at the World Cup, taking out a 4th consecutive win on the moguls overnight. The 25-year-old from Queensland comfortably outscored her nearest competitors from Japan and the USA on the slopes in Georgia, extending her considerable lead in the single format moguls. The win is Anthony's 5th in just 20 days. It cements her status as a towering figure in the winter sports world, following last season's disappointing championships, where she failed to place.
It was pretty tough out there. Some of the girls were throwing down some big scores and some solid runs, so really had to be on my game and pretty stoked to ski some runs that I was happy with and get some good training in and, yeah, come away with a win a little better than last time we were here, so pretty happy with that.
Briana, that is the latest in sport.
Thanks, Tom. Well, there was some welcome relief from that relentless wind overnight, but it's set to pick up again with a warm one for Christmas Day before temperatures cool off a little during the week. Right now in town it's 29 degrees and humidity is 42%. Perth's minimum was 17.8 degrees a little before 3:30 this morning, rising to a top of 34 around 1:45 this afternoon. The state's coolest spot was Ayr, which recorded a minimum of 9 degrees, while in the north the state's highest maximum was 45 and that was reached at Telfer. To the satellite briefly, cloud over the north, interior and east with low pressure troughs is generating showers and thunderstorms. Patchy cloud in the south and cool southerly winds isn't bringing any rain. The southern end of a trough over central inland parts of WA will continue to be slowly pushed north during the rest of this evening by a strengthening high pressure system to the south of the state. That trough will then extend back down the west coast tomorrow before moving inland on Monday. Taking a look across the country tomorrow, and as you can see, much cooler temperatures outside of the west, with severe storms likely from Christmas Eve to Boxing Day over much of eastern Australia. Showers, a possible storm and a top of 30 for Brisbane, possible storm and 35 for Darwin, partly cloudy and 22 for Adelaide. Back to WA, and in the north, showers and thunderstorms and very hot conditions over the Kimberley, central and east Pilbara and northern interior. Showers and thunderstorms over the northeast Gascoyne, northern Goldfields, very hot over inland Gascoyne, windy across central districts. Windy also across the southwest, very hot conditions expected over inland central west and adjacent lower west. In Perth, sunny, a top of 35 after an overnight low of 17. Sunrise will be at 5:08, setting at 7:23. And looking ahead, a mostly sunny top of 35 degrees set for Christmas Day, cooling off a bit after that, down to 25 degrees for Boxing Day, then warming up gradually with a sunny top of 31 set for next Saturday. And that's ABC News for now. You can stay up to date with ABC News online, or you can catch the news anytime on ABC iView. It's been a pleasure having your company. Take care and good night.